All right, how's everybody doing today? Who's ready for some motivation? Okay, we're gonna get that going soon, I promise you. Thank you so much. So how does it work? Just click on the button, hence the name clicker? Let's test it. Okay, that's the pointer. Sorry guys, just some technical. He's gonna come rescue us in 2 seconds. All right, so as we get the clicker going, thank you so much. So go forward that way. Oh, it makes sense. Thank you so much. All right, cool. So brief intro about me. My name is Madkour. I am originally from Egypt. And today I hope to inspire you, to motivate you, and to help you rekindle the fire in the belly. I understand that it's after lunch. I've been there. So I completely understand if we're a little, need 6 cups of coffee, completely get it. So today, just a little bit about me. So I'm a positive psychologist. I have a background in the social sciences. I have a BA in political science and a master's in sociology and a recent master's in applied positive psychology and coaching psychology. I am completely driven by the fact that by positive psychology and what it stands for. Just a very brief intro about the discipline. It's positive psychology is the study of human potential, of how to create flourishing individuals and how to create flourishing societies. It's about how to activate your inner compass. Excellent presentation, by the way. It's all about how to find your motivation, find your inspiration, figure out what makes you tick, and to pursue it fearlessly. And that is the beauty of this discipline. All from an evidence-based, science-backed approach. It's not necessarily just motivation that is not science-backed. It's all evidence-based, research, very rigorous, right? What else? I'm a sociologist. I'm gonna start my PhD in DBA soon, hopefully, on motivation, you probably guessed it, and entrepreneurship. What else? I am a professional speaker. It's my passion in life is speaking. I hope to travel the world to be able to do this. I am an entrepreneur. I'm a firm believer that entrepreneurs can and do change the world. It's through entrepreneurship that we leverage economies and change societies and inspire people and change the face of planet Earth. It's all through entrepreneurship. Think of all the most influential people that have ever lived, especially in recent modern times. Many of them were entrepreneurs. What else? I'm passionate, as you can tell, about all things motivation and well-being. I strongly believe that we're all born with an inner spark, just since day 0. We're all born with an inner spark. We're all born with a gift. We're all born with something that makes us truly unique and truly special. But I think as we get older, and as we assume more responsibilities, and as life tries to change us, to mold us, to shape us, in maybe not so helpful ways, that spark can sometimes go out. And my goal and my mission and my soul's mission and my purpose in life is to remind people of that spark and to help them rekindle the fire in the belly and to help them discover it and to help them keep it ablaze. Okay? Just want to share a very brief story with you. I hope I'm able to, I don't know if I'm going to be able to go through the slides, but hey, it's a heart-to-heart conversation. I was in Dubai Mall yesterday, and I saw this beautiful, beautiful little girl who was walking. This was late-ish into the night, around 11 p.m. She was walking behind her mom. She was about like 9 years old. Walking behind her mom and probably her auntie or something, young girl, and she was dancing. She was just walking around dancing. No music was playing. Nothing was going on. Her mom was a little bit ahead of her, so she could have been anxious about the fact that she's not right next to her mom. But she was dancing, and she was having the time of her life. She didn't care, obviously still young, so maybe not aware of that, but didn't care that people may laugh at her, didn't care that people may point at her. She was just having a good time. She was dancing to her own tune. She was sort of channeling her intuition, having a transcendent experience, and she was really going for it. Like, she was really going for it. And I was like, that is motivation. That is positive psychology. I'm not suggesting that you go to Dubai Mall at 11 p.m. and dance. Not suggesting that. What I am suggesting is to is to listen to your music, is to not die with your music still in you, is to find out what your passion is, what your purpose is, what motivates you, and to go for it with everything you've got. Okay? Looking forward to heart-to-heart conversation. We've already covered that. Okay. This is not going to be a technical presentation. I am a positive psychologist, but I don't want to bore you. I do not want to bore you with the definitions. We're just going to cover some basics, okay? So what is motivation anyway, right? Just a quick caveat when it comes to the study of fulfilling your ultimate potential in psychology in general, in sociology, and the majority of the social sciences is that it's sometimes quite difficult to come to a consensus about these terms. We all have an understanding of what motivation is. We all have an understanding about what well-being is. But if you are actually going to start to define it, it may get a little bit more complicated. But let's attempt to do that together today. Okay, so motivation is the driving force behind human actions, right? It's why a person does something. And what I want to highlight today to you is the following. If you are one of the lucky ones that is able to actually truly understand your why you're here, what you're here for, your calling, your purpose, your path, your soul's mission, you are well on your way to achieving your dreams. Because once you figure out the why, motivation is just going to be a very, very, very happy secondary byproduct. You're going to find the fuel within, you're going to find the fire within, and you're not going to have a hard time keeping it ablaze at all. Okay? So it's the process that initiates, guides, and maintains goal-oriented behaviors, right? And a little bit on goals. Goals are kind of like your compass, you know, alluding to the presentation right before this one, which was great. So it's your compass. Your goals are where you're going, where you're headed, and the more focused you are, and the more clear your goals are, and the more visceral your vision is, the easier it is for you to achieve it. So goals are, first of all, and this is based on meaning researchers. So in positive psychology, there's like a big sector of the discipline, all dedicated to meaning, and meaning in life, and how to find meaning in life. So meaning researchers, Viktor Frankl being one of the most famous ones, talks about goals being a great way to find meaning. You know, they motivate you, they energize you, and they help you figure out your why. Okay? Excuse me, sorry. Okay, what else? So motivation includes the biological, emotional, social, and cognitive forces that activate human behavior. So you may think that motivation is is a cognitive process. But believe it or not, once you figure out your why and do the work, because it does take inner work, it does take discipline, and it does take a lot of effort. This is not an easy process at all. I'm not by no means advocating or assuming or saying that it's easy. But once you do the inner work, you will be blown away, and you're going to soon realize, that motivation is actually not just a cognitive process at all. It's visceral. It's on the somatic level. It's on the body level. You're going to feel it in your bones, essentially, right? So it includes the biological, emotional, social, and cognitive forces that activate human behavior, all right? Excuse me, I'm so sorry. All right, so why is motivation important? If everything that I've said beforehand was not enough, let's go on to this slide. So understanding motivation can increase your efficiency. We all want to be efficient. Most of you guys are really successful, suited-up business people, so obviously we all want to be efficient. So understanding motivation can increase your efficiency, drive you to take action. Motivation is what gets you going. It's what gets you moving. It's what gets you off your seat. It's what gets you off your couch. It's what gets you out of bed in the morning. Motivation is all of that. It's how to avoid unhealthy or maladaptive behaviors, such as risk-taking and addiction. I saw, just as a random side note, I saw a video by a famous US actor, and he was Michael B. Jordan, and he was talking about the fact that when you're motivated, and he was alluding to the fact that he's built differently. Like all his friends would go out and party, he would stay home and stay focused. All his friends would be doing X, Y, or Z, he would stay home and stay focused. And that's why he's Michael B. Jordan of the Creed franchise, super successful. And that's just one minor example of the beauty of motivation, is when you are honed in, when you're locked in to exactly what you want to accomplish, you become unstoppable. I know it sounds like very airy, fluffy sort of stuff being said on a stage, but it's true. I'm a testament to that, and countless other people. It helps you feel more in control of your life, and who would not want that? I think ultimately, many of us are looking for a meaning, and many of us are looking for control. You want to feel like you're in control of your life. There's a lot of things that are not within our control, but there are things that are within our control, and motivation helps you be able to tell the difference between the two of those things. Obviously, it improves your overall well-being and happiness, and who wouldn't want that? All right. So just a little bit more on motivation. There are 3 elements to motivation, and they're all of equal importance. So number 1 is activation, persistence, and intensity. Activation is the decision to initiate a behavior. So I'm pumped. I just watched the stock on motivation. I'm going to pursue my dreams. I'm going to go after what I want. This is it. It's my time, et cetera, et cetera. So you're activated. You start taking action. You start doing what you are called to do, and you start actually going after your dreams and achieving your dreams and heeding the call. You start going after your calling. So activation is number 1, followed by persistence, which is extremely critical. You can't achieve anything without persistence. You could be the Galileo of your time. You could be the Michelangelo of your time. You could be the Picasso of your time. You could be the whoever of your time. Kobe, you could be whoever. But you wouldn't know that unless you are persistent. Persistence is a gift that you're giving yourself. If you do the inner work again and figure out your why, and you're not persistent, you're selling yourself short. It really does take a level of persistence to actually achieve what you want to achieve deep within your heart. And then lastly, so persistence is the continued effort toward a goal despite obstacles. And let me tell you, there will be obstacles. Obstacles are a part of the game. They're a part of life. I am a staunch optimist. I believe in hope. I believe in a brighter future. But obstacles are just a part of life. There's nothing that we can do about that. So just being well prepared, being aware of the fact that you will be met with obstacles is half the battle. And just doing the work that you need to do. And lastly, there's intensity. Intensity is the concentration and vigor. Again, energy, pizzazz, persistence, right? Grit. We'll get to grit in a minute. Intensity is the concentration and vigor that goes into pursuing a goal. So as you have probably noticed by now, you need activation, you need persistence, but then you also need intensity. You need all 3 to continue to be a motivated individual. Okay? So grit. This brings us next to grit. Grit is a super famous book by Professor Angela Duckworth. It's also a TED Talk on grit with over 12 million views. I'm so sorry. It went viral. And she's talking about grit, and it's a really, really interesting concept. And I think, so let's define it first. So grit is passion and perseverance for long-term and meaningful goals. You'll see the word meaning again. It pops up every now and then because without meaning, it's meaningless, right? So you need meaning. We all need meaning. We all need to make sure that we're pursuing something that matters to us, pursuing something that speaks to our core, pursuing something that we have a very strong emotional connection to. So again, grit is passion and perseverance for long-term and meaningful goals. The other key word here would be long-term, because regardless of your chosen path, regardless of your chosen career, you do need to make, there will be obviously a long-term commitment. There's this really famous quote about, there's no such thing as an overnight success. Every single person that we think is an overnight success has dedicated a minimum of 10,000 hours. Are you guys familiar with the 10,000 hour rule? Show of hands. Show of hands, raise your hand if you're familiar with the 10,000 hour rule. Okay, great. Mr. Abundance. All right, so just real quick, there's this idea called the 10,000 hour rule. The 10,000 hour rule basically posits or argues or contends that if you are to be an expert, if you are to be top in your field in a specific sector, whatever it may be, you need 10,000 hours of practice. Sounds like a lot, but it's, I think, around a decade. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's about a decade of experience, 10 years. That's pretty much what it takes. So when we're talking about grit, we're talking about having the grit. And I have to clench my teeth when I talk about grit. It's having that grit, that drive, that desire to keep going despite obstacles, despite a lack of support from friends, despite a lack of support from family, despite a lack of support from loved ones, despite a lack of clapping from everybody you know, because you have a vision deep within your mind that you're going to make it. If you have grit, which is passion and perseverance for long-term and meaningful goals, you will make it. The fact that I'm here today is evidence that you will make it. Just another quick side note is, so like I said, I'm from Egypt, but I'm in love with Dubai. I love this city. I love the UAE. I love it here. Absolutely love it here. So I have always, you may not believe this, but I have always visualized actually speaking on a stage in Dubai. I started recording my talks, posting my talks on social media a little bit over a year ago. And Dubai was always my destination. So the fact that I'm here today is just, I keep telling my friends it's a miracle. But that's grit, and that's what motivation can do for you. So find out what's worth visualizing for, and then have grit towards that, okay? So grit is passion and perseverance for long-term and meaningful goals, but there's, in my mind, a missing P there. So we have P, passion, P, perseverance. I think patience would be the third P that I would add. Obviously, perseverance implies patience. You can't persevere if you're not patient, but I think we need to highlight the fact that it does take a little bit of patience. The whole get rich quick schemes do not work. Most of you are in finance and business, so you're well aware of that. We don't need to keep talking about that for long, but there's no such thing as a get rich quick scheme. They don't exist. Okay? So both according to Professor Angela Duckworth, who is the authority on grit, both passion and perseverance are not, they trump innate talent. Like I said, you can be a natural-born Picasso or a natural-born Galileo or a natural-born what have you, right? But if you do not do the work, if you do not spend the time and invest the time to do the actual legwork involved, you'll never know. And wouldn't that be really upsetting? You know what I mean? We don't ever want, when we're 95 years old or 100 years old, regret the fact that we did not do everything in our power to find out what's really going on within, and to find out who we want to be and who we aspire to be, and then fight really hard to get there. So with grit, which is passion and perseverance, they trump innate talent. It's this whole idea of, think of a bulldog holding on to a bone really, really tight. They're not going to let go of that bone. And that's kind of how we have to be if we're going to accomplish our goals. Think of the song, I Get Knocked Down, But I Get Up Again. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that song. It's a bit of an old song. But have that attitude of, I get knocked down, but I get up again. Okay, you're never going to keep me down. I'm not going to sing the whole song, unfortunately. Anyway, so it's the ability to persist in something you feel passionate about and persevere when you face obstacles. That's grit. Because like I said, there will be obstacles, but think of them as hoops. Think of them as an upward spiral that you have to go through to make it. Think of them as a rite of passage, and think of them as, and we're going to talk about this on our panel, but think of them as a purification process. Robin Sharma, who I'm a big fan of, Robin Sharma, speaker, best-selling author, I'm pretty sure most of you are familiar with Robin Sharma, talks about how obstacles are purification. They're a purification process. It's how you are purified. It's how your soul kind of just keeps progressing to the next level. Okay? So 6 ways we can become grittier real quick is clarify your goals. Without a vision, sort of men will perish. Men, obviously men and women, but without a vision, we will perish. We have to know where we're going. It's not think of like, what's the world's most expensive car? A Bugatti? Anyway, we're in Dubai. We should all know what the world's most expensive car is. Think of a really expensive luxury car, and you're driving it, and you have a gas, a tank full of gas, premium gas, which costs a lot of money, and you're in the driver's seat, and you own this car, and you're driving around aimlessly. What good will a really good car be if you don't know where you're going? So having a vision is absolutely, absolutely, absolutely critical, and it's the first step to being a motivated individual. So clarify your goals. Discover your interests, which is the same thing. Practice deliberately. So I just want to allude real quick to points 2 and 3. If somebody's struggling with defining their vision, finding out their true calling, finding out why they're here, figuring out their purpose, understanding motivation, fueling the fire within. If that is an issue, really simply put, just so we don't dwell on that for too long, a really good way to figure that out is through trial and error. In our 20s, or at least in my 20s, it was all trial and error. Oh, okay, I got a job here, no, don't like it, quit. Got a job there, don't like it, quit. Got a job there, don't like it, quit. So it's just a question of figuring things out and understanding life through trial and error. And that can be really powerful. It sounds really simple and really boring, but that's how you figure out what you have a palate for. Okay? So know your purpose, your why, obviously a very big one. Practice optimistic self-talk. Self-talk is incredibly critical. We all live in our minds, we all live in our heads. We don't just experience our surroundings. Everything that we see all around us has to get filtered through the lens of our perception. So every now and then, take off the pair of glasses that you're wearing to perceive the world and try to understand, are you wearing dark shades? Are you wearing rosy colored shades? Are you wearing neutral shades? Just try to reassess what the color of your shades are. Are they dark? Are they white? Are they blank? Are they pink? Are they green? Are they whatever, right? So this is just a metaphor, figure of speech. Just introduce, inviting you to try to understand how you view the world, because everything that makes our brain has to perceive everything all around us, and it has to go through the lens of our perception, okay? So that's why self-talk is so critical, and monitoring your self-talk is so critical, and making sure that you speak kindly and graciously to yourself is extremely critical, because we spend the majority of our time in our minds. There's a lot of research that confirms that every single day we have, I'm not entirely sure of the figure, but we have around, I think between 80 to 90,000 thoughts a day, and the majority of them, I would say 85%, are repetition, are just repeated thoughts from the day before. So imagine that. Imagine how much potential we're not tapping into by being deliberate about our self-talk, by being, by using that power and harnessing that power to our own advantage. You know what I mean? So that is really, that's a big one. Join a gritty culture. There's a lot of research that confirms the fact that you are the product of the 5 people that you spend the majority of your time with. So make sure that you join a gritty culture. It's going to affect you in really incredible ways, right? Without really being aware of it, we pick up the cues, we pick up the lifestyle, we pick up the values, we pick up everything, the work ethic. We pick up the ambition, we pick up all of that from the people that we spend our time with. So make sure that you're around people that you want your future to look like and not your past. And vow to never give up. Okay, so there are various different types of motivation. Motivation is a vast topic, right? So there are various different types of motivation. Intrinsic motivation is motivation from within. It's like, I would do this for free kind of thing. This is how much you love that, right? This is how much you love doing what you're doing. So it's actions that are driven by internal rewards, doing things for pure enjoyment because they make us happy, motivated from within regardless of external rewards. It leads to positive emotions, creativity, mastery, which is amazing, sounds really cool to be masterful, to be in charge of your environment, to be in charge of your life, meaning and flow. A quick show of hands, who has heard of the concept of flow before? Okay, all right. I'm gonna just introduce it to you guys really quickly. So the founders of positive psychology are distinguished professor Martin Seligman, who people call him Marty for short. And the co-founder of positive psychology is Hungarian-American scholar, the late professor Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. So Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi dedicated his life to figuring out what makes us happy. He was completely he was in a lot of pain because of the aftermath of World War II. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to dedicate my life to figuring out what makes people happy. So the culmination of his research endeavor has resulted in a book on flow. Flow is this really interesting concept, and I'm pretty sure most of us in this room have experienced it before. Flow is when you're in the zone. It's when you're doing something and you lose track of time. You can't tell if you're hungry, you can't tell if you're thirsty, you don't know what time it is, you don't really care. You're doing a task where your skill level and the challenge level they go hand in hand. So it's not too easy, not too hard. That is flow, and it's a beautiful experience, right? So a lot of artists, so Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, the positive psychologist and scholar, basically would interview like professional athletes, artists, and actors, and what have you. And he would, and his conclusion was that flow is this incredible thing. You lose track of time, and it's a beautiful experience. So intrinsic motivation may lead to flow, okay? All right, so how can you be more intrinsically motivated? I want to just touch on intrinsic motivation real quick. This is by no means an invitation that we should do stuff for free. This is by no means an invitation that when you're not intrinsically motivated or when you're driven by things like fame and fortune, that there's anything wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I think it's actually much more natural to have a combination of the various different types of motivation, which we will cover in a bit. All right, so how can you be more intrinsically motivated? That's a really important question, because if intrinsic motivation will lead to mastery and flow and positive emotions, then we all want a piece of it, right? So there's a theory, that's what my master's dissertation was on, actually. It's a theory on motivation called self-determination theory. So this is just one way of understanding motivation. And the people that came up with that theory argue that this theory on motivation is universal. It applies to everybody, irrespective of gender, irrespective of region, irrespective of belief system, irrespective of age, irrespective of everything. So my master's dissertation was exactly that. I was testing that. So I interviewed entrepreneurs based in the UAE, based in Egypt, and based in the US, different age groups, different genders, different occupations, different types of entrepreneurship, like solopreneurship, speakers, podcast hosts, what have you, to really test if self-determination really is indeed universal, and the conclusion was yes, it is, right? Not necessarily a cathartic moment, because this theory has already been proven before, but I just wanted to test it myself. So what is self-determination theory? Again, it's a theory on motivation. So it outlines 3 conditions for intrinsic motivation. So again, this theory argues that all of humanity is wired the same when it comes to this specific type of motivation, right? Intrinsic motivation. So what are the conditions, or what are the requirements that we need? How can you be intrinsically motivated according to this theory? Number 1, you need autonomy, okay? Many of us here are entrepreneurs, and this probably strikes a chord with you, because entrepreneurship is all about being autonomous. It's all about being your own boss. It's all about calling the shots. It's all about being in charge. It's all about being responsible. It's all about being a good leader. So autonomy is a really, really, really big one when it comes to self-determination theory, and it's freedom of external constraints. And I think that's what draws a lot of people to entrepreneurship. The second condition that you need for intrinsic motivation, according to this theory, is competence. It's the need to feel capable. And the participants that I interviewed for my master's dissertation all touched on the competence piece. They're like, one of them, an engineer, is like, I'm really good at what I do, by the way. I'm like, yes, I know you are. Another guy, a speaker, he's like, yes, I'm really good. I fill entire ballrooms up. I'm like, yes, I know you do. Every single person that I've spoken to was very, very well aware of how competent they are. And they weren't doing it from like an overly confident standpoint. They were just doing it from a self-assured standpoint. They were doing it from a standpoint of, hey, I know my capabilities. I know I'm good at my job, and I'm not doing it to show off. I just know that I'm pretty good at my job. So competence is the need to feel capable, and we all really sort of need that from time to time, right? Like feeling mastery, feeling in charge, feeling in control, understanding that we're good at what we do. And lastly, relatedness, which is the need to feel involved with others. We're social creatures, we're social beings, we like interacting with other people. Interacting with people and having close relationships energizes us as human beings. And that is the relatedness part. Okay. What are the other types of motivation? You have extrinsic motivation, which is obviously the opposite of intrinsic motivation, which is motivation engaging in a behavior to earn, which is engaging in a behavior to earn external rewards or avoid punishment. So I was watching a video by Alex Hormozi. Many of you are probably aware, American entrepreneur Alex Hormozi. So he was talking about like the perfect mix when it comes to motivation. There must be something, we call that in sociology and in the social sciences, a push factor and a pull factor. So there needs to be a push factor and a pull factor. So the push factor could be fear of poverty, fear of failure, fear of stagnation, fear of being where I am today next year, fear of not growing, fear of a lack of evolution. It could be just fear of anything, right? And then that's the push factor. So that's one way to get motivated. That's extrinsic. And then there's the pull factor, which is intrinsic. It's like, where do I want to go? Where do I see myself? What is it going to take for me to get to my destination? That's the pull factor. So in a perfect, ideal world, you do need a little bit of both. You do need push factors that push you out of your comfort zone, sometimes shove you out of your comfort zone, thrust you into another zone. And then you also need a pull factor, like your vision, where you're going, what you want to do, who you want to be, what you want to become. So you need both to be fully motivated. Okay, so what else? So it arises from outside the individual. Extrinsic motivation, just by definition, arises outside of us, because that's why it's extrinsic, it's external. This is not to suggest that extrinsic motivation is a bad thing at all, which is what I was saying earlier. We can be motivated by both extrinsic and intrinsic motivation, right? So if you're motivated by fear, or if you're motivated by fame and fortune, absolutely nothing wrong with that. And then lastly, which I thought was really interesting, is family motivation. So on days when you're running a little low on either kind, on intrinsic and extrinsic, you can rely on family motivation. So family motivation is when you're motivated by the desire to provide for your loved ones, right? And this is really across the board. It's just how we're wired, right? It's a third source of motivation when intrinsic and extrinsic motivation fall short. So this is based on research where they interviewed factory workers, and they were able to perform under really bad circumstances. They were able to perform when they got little pay, when they got a lot of pay, when they got good feedback, when they got bad feedback. They were just able to perform like clockwork. So it applies to mundane or boring tasks without any rewards for good performance, right? Family can serve as both an intrinsic and extrinsic motivator. So just remember, on the days when you feel like your intrinsic and extrinsic motivation is falling short, you can rely on family motivation. All right, so we can't have a discussion. David, let me know if I'm running over time, because I'm not keeping track of time at all, okay? I am? I'm running out of time? I am. Oh, okay. All right. All right, so should we, can I do this one last slide, or should I just wrap it up? One last slide. Okay, sorry about that, you guys. I just didn't want to bring my phone. I didn't want to get WhatsApp messages and be distracted. I wanted to be 100% present for you guys. Real quick, self-discipline. We cannot have a conversation on motivation without talking about self-discipline. Self-discipline is the route, it's the bridge, it's the pathway that's going to get you from A to B. So it's the ability to override a habitual or motivated response, resisting short-term temptations. There's a lot of research that has been conducted on self-discipline and how it can increase your well-being, how it can prevent you from engaging in maladaptive behaviors, et cetera, et cetera. So it's the process by which we seek to have control of our thoughts, feelings, and impulses. It's effortful regulation of the self by the self. And I will leave it at that, and thank you so much for your time and attention. Thank you. Thank you.